Good morning, Boker Tov. It's great to be here. Thank you to Yaniv Garti, to Oded Rose, to Ariella, who's here, and the folks at the Israel-America Chamber of Commerce for being such terrific partners, putting on such a terrific program here today. AmCham in Israel is an unbelievable partner for the U.S. Chamber. We're honored to be your partners in Washington. Thanks to Ian for being here and the entire U.S. Commercial Service, Susan and her team at the U.S. Embassy. You're great champions of U.S. business and partners for the Chamber. If you're an Israeli company looking to invest in the United States, I know that many of you have uncles in New Jersey, but the United States is a big place. Come to Select USA, learn about opportunities to invest in the country. It's also great to see so many friends in the Israeli government and our member companies here, as well as our partners from AmChams all across Europe and the Middle East. The U.S. Chamber is the largest business organization in the world. We represent the interests of about 3 million companies, big companies, small companies, and everything in between. And we advocate for business and free enterprise because these are the things that have driven and been growth engines for our economic prosperity over the generations. And it may surprise you that the U.S. Chamber has a dedicated, focused USIsrael business program to drive policy and advance business interests between both of our countries. We're not a Zionist organization, we're not a Jewish organization, we're a business organization. And we believe that the U.S.-Israel commercial relationship supports jobs, creates game-changing innovation that impacts the world, and contributes to economic advancement both in the United States and overseas. Israel's relationship is too often seen strictly through the prism of security and defense considerations, completely overshadowing our commercial relationship. The folks in this room understand that completely well. And yet, no time in our history have our countries been more connected economically that are contributing significantly to the American economy and America's security. So much of that success is as a result of smart, forward-thinking, innovative public policies that have created huge opportunities for companies on both sides. Look at our trade relationship. It's been mentioned already. This is the 35th anniversary of our free trade agreement, the first modern-day free trade agreement that we've ever seen. This was an innovative public policy that's now been replicated all across the world to break down barriers and create more markets for U.S. and other companies to succeed. In 1985, go back and think about it. When the Free Trade Agreement was signed in 1985, Israel was just a struggling, developing economy. Inflation reached 400% in 1984. The biggest export from this country was Jaffa oranges, which are still delicious. And Israel was relying on hundreds of millions of dollars of economic assistance to stabilize its economy. Today, the situation is very, very different. Bilateral trade tops $40 billion, and Israel's economic story is very different than it was back then. The country is teeming with over 250 U.S. corporate R&D centers. And Israel, as Ian mentioned, is a huge investor in the U.S. economy. While Israel makes up only 2% of the Middle East population, it accounts for 20% of trade with the United States, and half of all investments, this is shocking, half of all investments from the Middle East, and remember, there's countries that have a lot more wealth south of Israel, half of all investments into the U.S. from the Middle East are coming from Israel. And Israel's a huge job creator in the United States. Just as an example, our friends at Teva, and Mati Gil, I know, is going to speak later today, just did a really interesting new study that showed that the company supports about 57,000 jobs across the country. That's a terrific story, and it can be replicated. And look at creative public policy innovations like the Bard Foundation, and BSF, which since the 1970s have been advancing partnerships, industrial R&D, commercial cooperation, scientific partnerships, agriculture partnerships, etc., between the U.S. and Israel. These foundations are still thriving today. So as we celebrate the 35th anniversary of our free trade agreement, it's great to celebrate it, but it's also very important to think about where government and business can go in the next generation. So I think there's three areas that I want to highlight that are really oversized growth engines for the U.S.-Israel commercial relationship that require new thinking and smart government engagement and public policy to drive us forward. The first area is Israel's energy independence is fueling a huge growth boom in this country and across the region. The two major discoveries of natural gas off the coast of Israel are providing the country with a clean, stable source of energy that will serve the country for generations to come. This is fueling an unprecedented infrastructure boom. Transportation, schools, electricity, water projects, et cetera, and U.S. companies, I've seen U.S. companies are taking a look at these projects in ways that I've never seen them look at Israel before. This is also contributing in unprecedented ways to regional economic cooperation. Just in December, not that long ago, gas began flowing from the Leviathan fields to Jordan and Egypt. And the newly formed Eastern Mediterranean Gas Forum is bringing Israel together with Egypt, Greece, Cyprus, the Palestinians, Jordan, and Italy to work together on ways to jointly develop the region's energy resources. That's why next week in Washington, D.C., we're hosting energy ministers from these countries, including Minister Steinitz from Israel, to look at how they can work together to create joint regulatory environments that will promote more U.S. investment in the region. We're very proud of this. This energy development is really enabled by a U.S.-Israeli consortium, probably the largest U.S.-Israeli project in history, and there's more to come. If you're in Washington, D.C. next week, let me know and come join us. The second area is there's a huge hunger. I've seen this all across the United States to create innovation ecosystems. Every mayor and governor in America is thinking about how they can build their own ecosystem that promotes entrepreneurship and creates jobs. It may surprise you, but 75% of all venture capital into the United States goes only into 3 states, California, Massachusetts, and New York. The third largest state in our country, my home state of Florida, only gets 1% of venture capital funding. So how do you spread that out more broadly, and how do you broaden the impact of innovation? Israel's doing that unbelievably well. The models here, accelerators, incubators, commercialization programs, VC, and I know you're going to hear from Aaron right after me, but the Innovation Authority, you could argue, is one of the most innovative government-driven, I don't even know what it, policies, programs, institutions that is doing more to transform this country than any. We want to drive these kinds of partnerships, bring these kinds of models to cities and states all across the United States to democratize entrepreneurship and create more links between Israel and the United States. Just imagine a U.S.-Israel water accelerator in Arizona, right, David? Imagine a food tech and ag tech hub in Iowa, a digital health accelerator in Baltimore. There's endless possibilities and huge untapped potential. The final area is around big data, and which I believe create huge opportunities to leverage and protect innovation. Yaniv Garti likes to remind me that the quantity of information produced in the world doubles every 18 months. And with greater access to 5G networks, faster IoT devices, and proliferation of these devices that are connected to the internet, it's only going to speed up this trend. So how do we process, analyze, manage, and protect all of this information? Both countries are thinking about policies and national programs around AI, digital health, autonomous vehicles, cybersecurity, and beyond. And I think the U.S.-Israeli companies are working together more and more in these areas. And so where can governments be catalytic in terms of promoting joint R&D, developing shared approaches to regulation and policy so we're aligned, and reduce barriers for American companies to work here in Israel, which is still a problem, and Israeli companies working in the United States, which is also a challenge from time to time. So on the 35th anniversary of our free trade agreement, we're thinking big about the future of our relationship, and I think we should think big. And we want our partners and our governments to think big about the relationship and not just think about it from a security perspective. Innovative public policies drove this relationship in the 1970s and the 1980s, and it's now time for the next generation of public policy that can help unlock and collaborate with business. Government and business can drive more partnerships in AI and health and transportation and energy and beyond, and help create the new companies, the partnerships, the jobs, and the industries of the future. So I hope you'll join us. It's great to be here. Thank you.